Hi guys, Ben from the Two Piece. It's our hobby desk video. So we've decided to try and do some hobby desk videos every other sort of week to intermix with our podcast. And this week it's me because last week it was Dan. So unfortunately you have the dubious pleasure of being in my much more untidy hobby desk. I have in fact tidied my hobby desk, which is a miracle in its own right. Bit like chalk and cheese when it comes to hobby areas, me and Dan, because he loves a nice clean one, and I'm afraid I work a little bit messy because I just get so stuck in. I don't clean up after myself, but everyone works in different ways, and that's kind of the nature of life, isn't it? So this week I'd like to talk you through what I've been working on. It's mainly been constructing. I have been doing some painting on my Titan. I'd like to talk you through both, because I think I've had a lot of fun doing some of it, and it's not really great photographing it and sticking it on Instagram and going, no, look at all this plastic I've cleaned up, because otherwise I think people get bored of that. So anyway, I'd like to show you some videos of it, and hopefully later on we might get to talk to the guys from painting night, because that's on this evening, so we'll see. Alright, so let's go down to the hobby desk. Right guys, so I don't have a cool stand to grip my phone with yet, but like Dan did, so I'm going to be doing this one-handed, so bear with me. So we'll start with this lot, which is the Lord of the Rings I've been putting together. So I got really excited about Pelennor Fields, absolutely loved Lord of the Rings, and I'm so pleased to see it back. So I felt it was a must-buy for me, really. So I got straight on with putting them all together, and then one thing led to another, and I've done a whole lot more than the Pelennor Fields box set now, pulling out all my old models that I had just stuck in boxes on sprues or off of their sprues and not cleaned up. It's been a real kind of trip down memory lane, because some of these plastics are old. There's some great sculpts in there though, so despite their age, I'd like to talk you through some of them, show you what I've been working on, and some of the solutions I've had to some of the problems that I had with a lot of them. So bring it down to so these guys. So these weren't in the box set. These are Mordor Orcs. Some of the earliest sculpts Games Workshop did for Lord of the Rings, and I think that, like this dude, for example, just goes to show how a model can be timelessly awesome. They're really easy to clean up. I had a box of those kicking around from way back when, so they got done. What you do actually get in the box set is Morannon Orcs. Now, I had a fair few breakages on my Morannon Orcs, and this is one of them. I also did with the Army of the Dead that came in there. Now, spears breaking, especially on Lord of the Rings, are a real pain, because, well, frankly, they're not very thick. On Lord of the Rings, they're not thick enough really to drill and repair using a pin, which I would normally do. You can do, but when you get the pin in, the end of the pin can create a weak point where that hard metal acts as a sort of anvil to bend the soft plastic around it, and it snaps off at that point. And then once you've done that, then it really is useless. So I've found with experience that the best thing to do is actually to try and replace the spear. So these copper bits are pipe, and they've got a hole down the middle which is just big enough to stick a paperclip through, and then the paperclip goes into the hand there, and that is a really strong mend. This one I've drilled through the hand and just put the rod all the way through. Again, that's got the pin at the top there, except at the top here, rather than sorry, out of focus. Rather than putting a pin into the plastic, I've just whittled the plastic down and then used the end of the plastic as a sort of peg to go into the end of the copper bit. So that's the sort of way I go about mending those kind of things. You know, having said that, I contacted Games Workshop and said, look guys, I've had 8 breakages in this box set, plus here are the photographs, and they replaced all of the breakages with a whole new Lord of the Rings box. So, yeah, kudos to them. I thought I'd show you some of these guys. So, along with the plastic orcs, I had sitting around in my bits box a bunch of metal ones. I could pull out more and more of these. Absolutely love these guys. They're classic Games Workshop sculpts by the Perry twins. Some of the faces are just absolutely fantastic. Superb. Right, Riders of Rohan. I love Riders of Rohan. I love that scene in Pelennor Fields where they're all on the hill. One of my favourite moments of any film, frankly. These guys, I think, redefined what horses and cavalry looked like, or could look like, as a plastic model for Games Workshop. So they hold a special place, I think, in the history of Games Workshop plastics. But there are some problems with them that I decided to try and rectify. So one of them is, you can see here where the reins are, that was just a little stub. I felt that didn't look right. I thought it looked a bit pants. So a little bit of green stuff, and I've taken the reins up to the hands on all of my Riders of Rohan, which I'm really pleased with. I think that looks a lot better. So I'm very happy with that. Just want to show you this dude, Theoden, King of Rohan, quality sculpt. Really, really chuffed to see Games Workshop sculpting Lord of the Rings stuff again. Can't wait for the new ones in the future. So, some other stuff that I did. These guys were, again, from a bits box. So, bits that I had that weren't complete models. In this case, it was the legs. As you can see, the legs all needed rebuilding, apart from one, this guy, Sharku. Sharku, however, he needed a new hand, so that got sculpted on. Used a standard wag arm and just sculpted it, cut away all the cloth, filed it down. What I tend to do with these kind of things is base coat them, undercoat them, and then see how they turn out, and if I need to go back, then I do. So I'm quite chuffed with that. That was missing a leg, so stuck in a bit of wire and then sculpted around it, and I think they've turned out all right, actually. Really love that sculpt, that one. Absolutely superb. Shame you can't get these models anymore, really. But there we go. Last but not least on my fixing ones was this guy. Broken that off. What a nightmare. I find trying to repair things like that, metal on metal, is impossible. So, bit of plastic. And that's really quite strong and stuck on with super glue and ain't going anywhere. But nice simple fix to that. Alright. So, other things that I've done. Lord of the Rings. I've got a second box. This was the big one. This took a lot of time. The Witch King. All the gap filling on this, and I've done photographs of how I pinned this dude. There's some serious pinnage going on underneath his ass in there. This leg needed a new foot, so I took this one off of the other Ringwraith Fellbeast leg that I just had kicking around in my brother's bits box. So they should both be like this, but I don't think that looks too bad, and it means I can get a model out of just about effectively what is bits. So it's always useful to sort of just collecting people's throwaways. They don't want it because it doesn't take much work really, and I guess same goes to it with eBay purchases. It doesn't take much work to get them back to life and on the table. What else have we got down here? I can show you. Plastic Moria Troll, missing his head. eBay purchase of a metal head, sculpted on the neck collar. The metal head was like a quid or something, so it was that's a real bargain that to fix that dude. And I think it looks as good as the completely done plastic version. So there we go. Yeah, that's pretty much all my Lord of the Rings. I'll show you what the rest of them constructed. I'm looking down at the floor here. That's the rest of the box. So it's got the troll from the Pelennor Fields, Cave Troll King, Sauron, all bits and bobs, just sort of discards that other people didn't want, and I've inherited, and now, thank you very much guys, I've turned them into an army. So brilliant, that's that. Next thing I'm going to show you guys is the Test of Honor, so give me a second and I'll swap over to that. Hi guys, welcome back, and this is the other thing that I've been putting together, so Test of Honour. So me and John, from one of the chaps from the Bodmin Club, decided to have a shot at some historical stuff. So we picked up Test of Honour, which is a samurai fighting game, small armies. This box set was 40 quid, came with all the bases, all the models that you can see in there, and a bunch of the player cards, so a fair old wad of those to play the game with, and also the books, which you can see here. I wanted to show you the end result of these models. They were, I'm not going to lie, frankly a pain in the ass, but I think in the end, actually, with a little bit of sort of TLC, I've created some decent models. So Ashigarus, the issue with them, I find, was that they're a tiny bit wooden, which is something that can be sort of fixed if you kind of embrace it. So these kind of standing up poses. This one is a little conversion, just swapping a hand to make it look like he's grasping a sword. This one, he's got his hand on them. But I think if you embrace those poses and go for a look that they're kind of at ease or standing at guard, and not try and make them something they're not, then they turn out all right. So like those, was a big fan of the actual end result of some of the samurai models that you can get. Now, the problem I had with these dudes is that the instructions gave no indication which arms went with which samurai. Now, that may not sound like much of an issue, except, you know, as you can see with these, the sword and the spear are separate, and they go through open arms or open hands. So you need to get the right hands to line up to make these poses. Now, some of them are fairly obvious, like this guy's reasonably obvious, but it's surprising how unobvious this fella is, for example. And in videoing this, with the light shining down, I've just noticed a whopping great wold line on his arm, but I'll go back and do that. But the instructions give no indication as to which arms go with which. You just show you sort of vague pictures, which I found to be utterly useless, frankly. But I think actually in the end they've turned out some really nice models, so that I think when they're painted they'll look great. There's been some green stuff in to sort of make the gaps fill up, and some bits like, for example, where the sword is resting there. Get that in focus for you. There's a sort of hole in the sword that you have to put over a peg on the model, and it looks absolutely gopping. So I've just sculpted some sort of fabric, sort of cording to go over the top. I didn't like the standards, so I turned them into those flags that you see in samurai films that sort of stick around, and used some of the other stuff to make a like little pile of equipment and spears. But quite a nice box set, all said and done. I haven't played the game yet, but now I've got the models sort of sorted, I will be able to do that. Other than the spearmen, just quickly, you have the Ashigaru Aquabushes. I have no idea how to actually pronounce that word, but that will do. Musketeers, for another way. And you can make those either as those or an archer, which I'm looking in here and I don't seem to be able to find any. There you go, here's one. I think the archers actually come out really nicely. So there you go, that's Test of Honour. These took a lot longer to make than I had anticipated, primarily I think because the instructions were so poor. So you're trying to work things out, and when you're trying to work things out, that can take time. Alright guys, I'm going to move on to the last thing, which is my Titanicus. Hey, Titans, love it. So I managed to finish this guy, which I've imaginatively named the Hand of the Emperor, which comes from the Titan that we built in Games Workshop Plymouth, which was called incorrectly Manus Deus, which sort of means hand of God. But this time, rather than sort of guessing, I googled it and translated it, and ex parte imperatoris does translate to the hand of the emperor. So, but in fact, it translates differently the other direction, which is really frustrating. But I'm no Latin linguist, but I thought Latin would be the closest thing to the sort of pig Latin of the Imperium. But I've done this one in the style of kind of the older warp runners. So I'll bring him up closer for everyone to see. So with the flames on the top and on the bottom. I've gone for a sort of a apocalyptic Martian background. Get some light on the matter. Might be able to see a bit better there. Bit of a road effect going on. The old doorage going on in the back there. Some numerical stuff. Really chuffed with how he turned out. Sorry about the focus on this, guys. I'm using my phone. And then this one, I'm going to do slightly differently. So the older warp runners had the flame design, and then since they've sort of the resurgence of Titans with Forge World, they've had a slightly different feel to them. So stripy carapace, yellow plates, and his gun's got stripes on at the moment there as well. So that's the sort of look that this one's going to go for. Now hopefully this one will take a lot less time than that one, by nature of the fact that there's no flames on it. So fingers crossed, because I'd like to get this guy done before I go on holiday at the end of the week. But we'll see. So one of the things that I've done that you may have spotted is that I've sprayed these all with the airbrush on the sprues. Now that was mentioned in the videos by the Forge World team, and I think they're absolutely right. This works perfectly. When you can't really do the trim, because I found that it sort of attaches onto places where you need to file it down, I think, really to benefit from, to make it look right. So I've left the trim, and I will do the trim when I've assembled it on the model, probably piece at a time, and then do all the weathering afterwards. But it was so much easier to do the airbrushing on the sprue. It was quite fun, actually. And it could also mean that I could get the sort of colours right across it. Drawbacks, I suppose, is that I had to really keep referring back to drawings as to where the light caught on them. So, I have likely made a mistake on somewhere on some of these. But we'll see. For example, these ones, I think that the light should be at the top rather than the bottom. And I think if I take the arm off of what I've already done, you can see why. So I've put the highlight at the top rather than the bottom, but it was too late to go back and do that again. So at least it's behind the gun, so no one will notice. Shh. And finally, what I just finished today, putting together because they're the next thing on the list, and I found it really hard to paint when I'm tired after work sometimes. So, but I do find it easier to assemble. Is the 6 Knights that come with the Titanicus box set. These dudes are so cool. I mean, they're just little dinky versions, and I just think they're wicked. The amount of detail that they got on them is really quite remarkable. So great. So there we go. Hi guys, I thought I'd bring you back into the shed where things go to die. I've done a bit of tidy. because I wanted to show you the boards that I've been working on. So let's have a look at them. So I had a little bit of a rant on the podcast about this, but I think you can see why. The lighting in here is dire, but I think you can clearly see the difference in the tone between the two flocks. So you can see where the brown sort of is coming through here, but when you butt the two up against each other, the second two boards I did are clearly different from the first one. But eventually, that's what I want the boards to look like. It's a patchy sort of grassland. I think they get, I'm no scenery expert, but all I've ever done really with scenery is the stuff in Games Workshop, and I think they've turned out all right. I used just rattle cans for the greys, actually. Good old Halford's grey. No, it doesn't look like the skulls are a different colour from the grey at this distance, but I assure you they are. But yeah, that's another little thing I've been working on. Yeah. All right. Back to looking at my ugly mug. So that's my hobby desk and has been for a few weeks now. Mainly been assembling. I really find that assembly is my sticking point on the hobby. It is something that I tend to fall back on if I'm losing motivation for painting. But I don't really enjoy it at all. And if I could pay someone to do like the 116 goblins that I didn't show you, because who wants to see 116 goblins in a video, then I would do if I could afford to do that, because it's just, I find it's a bit soul destroying, frankly. Unless I'm converting or making something new or unusual, it doesn't hold any interest with me at all. So I hope you've found that interesting. If there's bits in there that caught your attention, I would really love feedback. If there's anything that you'd like us to see us do in these hobby videos, other than just talk you through what we've been doing or how we've done it, then guys, seriously, just ask and we'll see what we can do. So like I said, hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, because I'm on holiday, and my wife would literally kill me if I recorded a podcast while I was away on holiday. So that's going to take a couple of weeks, maybe from this Wednesday, possibly 2 weeks from then. So sorry about that, but that's just life. So nice to see you guys. Look after yourselves, have an awesome time in the hobby, and be excellent to each other. Bye.